Carolina, and I met a retired Army nurse, and she was raising canaries, and she had all her little cages set up in different rooms in her home, and she's the one that educated me about canaries, because this was a little bit before the internet, and a little bit before all this information being easily accessible online. And so it's from her teaching, her telling me to look at your birds, watch your birds, this is what to do if and when, that I learned about keeping canaries. So before I even got canaries, like we went to do before,
you just going to people right and left. You just
dogs, cats, livestock,
making
poultry.
around.
I researched. I read and read and read and read. Some of the pet shop books that I read were not quite as on the this is the true way of keeping canaries is really all about. They kind of fluffed it a little bit. I will share, and I'll pass this around too. I found this book by a canary breeder who's bred canaries all her life. And you'll see there's no pictures, nothing for attention deficit people like myself to get carried away with or distracted by. It is really good, to the point, factual. I mean, just here, this is how it is about keeping canaries. And I'm going to pass it around so you guys can see it. So I've dabbled in mostly, just my term, mud canaries are crosses between this type of canary or this color canary. And so it's all hobby for me. I do belong to the St. Louis Canary Bird Club. I've learned a lot from master breeders. And these are people who have bird rooms outside their house, who have like 20 breeding pairs of birds, and show birds, all masked to go to nationals. I'm not at that level, but I am at the level of keeping birds for howdy, fun, and a little bit of fun, because I enjoy sharing keeping canaries. I also have posters. I don't know if I can pass these around, but just give you a big idea of what's happening. So this poster, you're looking at your color grid. This is kind of what's happening in the people who are really working with and doing selective breeding with canaries. So here's one color poster. Here's another one. Let me get that one for you. Here's another color bred, so you can see there's just, and he's like, wow, what do you mean yellow? So you got yellow intense is what those are. But it's just amazing of what, and this isn't, so this isn't all of them. There's more being developed as we speak. And here is probably your typical type canaries. And we'll talk about this in a minute too. So I don't know where in the world to put these, Georgia, but I'll kind of lay them around somewhere, and you guys go through and take a look at a later date. We'll find it.
Maybe I'll put them up by the counter when you're finished.
I love cartoons, Bugs Bunny, so what's called the Huff Buff Bug. This is the original wild canary. This is what a wild canary looks like. You see the greens and the yellow hues. And so what happened was, back in the early 1600s, our Spanish sailors started sailing. This is where they're from, Canary Islands area. And I think, too, take one more step back. I think, too, when you see a bird like this, it's important to know this history and the research and the things that have been done about these kind of birds, because they're a lot alike our little house sparrows and our cardinals that we see around here. They act a lot alike, very territorial, very, they are sensitive to life. When I start building my nest, laying my eggs, defending, brooding, raising babies. Can everybody hear me? I'm rather soft-spoken. Okay. When the parrot stops, would that help? Okay. So this is where they're originally from. And from there, our Spanish sailors got captured birds took them over to Spain, took them over to Europe. They started, the monks got a hold of them, started raising them. Sold only the males, because that sounds a little bit familiar. The only males were being sold. And of course, nobility and your wealthy people wanted these, and so the prices went up. Does that sound familiar a little bit too? And so drove up short supply, and soon, it didn't take long, hens became available. And people started bringing them. Same thing happened in Europe. They started hunting birds. The wealthy got them, and then next thing you know, your folks who weren't your upper wealthy class, but they weren't your poor, had to work for everything they have. Some got middle class. That's the people who got together with some of your upper class in Europe. We're talking 16, 1700s. And that's when some of your type canaries started happening. They started doing selective breeding. It was like, oh, I like that song, I like that song. So we put those birds together. Well, I like that shape, I like that color. Just like with our dogs and our cats, how we selectively breeding them to get the type. Same thing with canaries. I added this slide. Does anybody know what this canary is? It's a yellow.
They look like the little goldfinches.
They do like goldfinches. This is the London Fancy Canary, which was very popular before both wars. And so I kind of put this slide up to show what happens when things fall apart, when you're working with and you have hobbies and a war breaks out. So they lost this canary. It's been gone for several hundred years. Just like in some poultry and livestock, some of that, we lost it. However, we had a little bit of stuff being written down, and so we got the makings of the London Fancy coming back. And so they got the, I would say maybe the ingredients of how to produce a London Fancy. And so there's one that's 21st century bird. They are probably going to be. So before I really get into talking about and just starting this blah blah blah, I want you guys to talk to me just for a few minutes. How many have a canary? Great. How many, is it just a canary, one male, enjoy singing? Good. Your breeding canaries, one or two or more pair. More pair, two or more pair, maybe one pair, two, three pair, two pair, great. How many are thinking about adding a canary to the flock and household? Okay, well that's great. They're thinking about it. Okay, great. Okay, good. Because what's going to happen is once you learn a little bit more about keeping a canary, it's going to decide on how many you want to keep. All right. So we have, like I showed the posters, there's three main types. You have your colors, you have your type, and then you have your song. So of course your color, and I put in parentheses the English spelling of color, because most of your text you're going to come across about keeping canary are your English writers, and so it's going to look different. This is what I like. What you may see here, what we see a lot and I see a lot are your brown gold and red factors and some of your yellow and tints. And so, how dare I put our poster on the side like that? They're right here, and so when we get a chance to walk around and look at them, I want you guys to take a few minutes and look and see what's out there. So here's some examples of some of really high quality color bred canaries. You have your red factors, your yellow and tint, some of your brown, gold, and then some of your mosaics. Those are kind of like some of the things that are out there, really almost real easy to get your hands on, but you're going to pay for them.
Does it matter what? Do some of them you have to feed special diets to that keep their color?
Yes. So there is red factor dye that you would feed it. You can do it dry or liquid, and your yellow and tint. There's some things. That's a good question. I'm not going to go in real detail about color feeding and what for show quality birds. There are some birds you will color feed. You'll need to color feed your red factor birds, some of your bronzes, and some of your Stratford canaries. I think even your Norwich are color fed. That's another whole talk, okay? Can we save that for next time?
I don't even know what time we have.
That's a good, okay, we'll get there. So your type canaries, some that I've seen Tracy carry here are some border flies in Gloucester. I've seen every now and then she gets some of those birds here. That poster is right here for you guys to look at a little later. Here's some of the more, so you got your border canary, just a nice, beautiful, soft, feathered, brown canary, like a baseball with a head and tail. Your Gloucester have a corona, and then the ones without it's called a consort. So when you breed Gloucesters, you put a corona with its consort. You never put a crested, or it's called a corona, or in the hearts it's called a crest. So you never put two corona birds together. That gives that lethal gene. So with Gloucester, you put consort with crested, and you'll get half and half in your blood. The bottom is your five, which is just a miniature border, and then your givers. I mean, you got to love that canary to keep it. It's very, very interesting, and I never seen them. They actually stand like that. Very Volturine looking, I think. Those givers and your borders, that, from what I've noticed, that's your show keeper birds. That's people who breed them for actual showing. It's not that you couldn't obtain one. If you go to national bird shows, it's possible you can come across some of those for sale. I've heard master breeders haggling over show quality birds, and I've heard the price $500 and up for birds. So it's really amazing. But that's nothing compared to what you guys have paid probably for these birds. Here's a few more: the lizard, the Norwich, and the Yorkshire canary. That's a very tall. The Yorkshire is a very tall, militaristic standing, long canary. Your Norwich is kind of a round. They call it sometimes the bull canary. So it's got this feathers that make it like it's looking hard at you kind of thing. And the lizard is the oldest, everything I've read is the oldest canary that started in captivity other than the original wild call. And there's lots of rules around keeping and breeding lizard canaries. So they have a little cap on top of their head, and they're called lizards because their feathers resemble scales of a lizard, and that's their pattern. How it became to be a type bird and not a color bird, I'm not sure. That's everything I'm reading and being educated myself on. They're a type bird, not really a color bird. But there's silvers and there's reds, and you have to color feed those for show. And breeding them, you want to breed a full cat or a broken cat. So again, that's another conversation about how to do some of those birds.
You're not fun, but.
So our song canaries, I think this is the area where we're most familiar with, because we want a canary that's going to sing. So I've seen Tracy bring in the Spanish timbrados, the German ballers, or the hearts. That used to be what folks used to call the kitchen canary, long time ago in the 50s. Water slaughter and the American singers. So the American Singer obviously was created in America. It's just a little short TV commercial here. And a group of women in the 30s said, let's create a song canary that's from America. And they got together and tossed a border type canary with a roller canary. And with some fine tuning, they came through with the American Singer. And as you can see, American Singers can be any color. So it's just not bred for its color. It can be, there are shape dimensions that you want it to be, but when you show a American Singer canary, they're not looking at its color. They're listening for its song. And so years ago, I got the chance to sit in on a judging, and all these little show cages, they're about this big, about this wide, and it's very temporary for them. It's probably for a day or two for that canary. And they're all covered up. And when they're ready for each canary canary to sing, they uncover it and bam, that canary starts to sing. And so all the points are awarded toward how fast it starts singing, some trills and some notes. I don't know all the requirements, but that's what the American singer has become now. So probably when you get them from Tracy, probably it can be a mutt canary, crosses between this canary and that canary, or some American singers.
They sing real loud.
It varies, and so it can be a nice mellow, nice rolling sound like the roller, or it can be a high shrill sound like a fife. It kind of depends. I have a couple now who is a heart. I have a male that's a hearts and a fife cross, and I can hear him all over the house. And then I have a little male that is a fife, and his father was a fife, and his mom was a white hen. Could have been an American singer, and he has a soft, very soft, but strong song. And so there's differences with that song. It's not just one loud, non-stop song. There's lots of variants and personalities too.
Do they change their song? Will they learn a song from Neverbird?
That's a good question. As an adult, they may add to it. It's when they're chicks. For example, water slogger. You want them to sing a water slogger song, so you don't house those young males with American singers. Or you'll play a water slogger CD for them to learn. So that's a good question too. Yeah. So let's get in some details. I gave you a little bit of history. I think it's important to know where they come from, what's out there. So let's talk about breeding, foods and treats, cage location, and safety and taming. So canaries are very territorial. So if you're thinking about getting a canary, your male canary will be happy all by himself. And in his cage, we'll get to, with his divider taken out, just the right enough room for him. If you're wanting your canary to come out and fly around your house, and we'll have a selected room in your home, that's possible too. And so that takes a little bit of training, and it's not hard to do. They have little brains, but they learn little things a little bit at a time, and then it becomes a routine. And like all of us, we have routines. When we get our routine, it's easy to, like, oh, I do this, and then when it's time, I go do that. Okay? So keeping more than one canary, you do not want to house two males together. They don't like it. They'll fight because they are territorial. It's like putting the Incredible Hulk and Sylvester Stallone together in a 2x2, okay? They're not going to... So this, if you want to breed canaries, this is beautiful. Look how neat that nest is. A canary hen and birds can build a nest that I don't think anybody can replicate. Little babies in there. But before you get to that...
Or was that built around the basic cup nest?
That's a basic cup nest, and I'll get there in a few minutes. So before you can get to that, you got to have this, right? So a little insert on sexing. So telling my canary apart. If it lays an egg, you got a hen. That, you know,
Pretty much the same way as parrots.
with parrots. So you probably can DNA test them. She writes about this author. I really enjoyed this book. And this author writes about people who've kept canaries, who are master breeders, sell young birds, or like, I think that's a male, he's doing this, and I think that's a hen that's doing this, and when they get them home, and it's quite the opposite. So you need to give a male canary almost 9 to 12 months before you really know you have a male canary. Because your hens are going to do a little singing too. They're going to do a little but the male, you'll be a little bit different. He'll hold his head up and you'll see some throat action. See how his throat is kind of, his feathers are stuck out? That's what's going to happen with your males. So with your hens, it's not going to happen. I've bought males, hens being sold as males. And I got them home, it's a young bird, and she said, turtle. I said, oh yeah, she's just coming right along. And then she's tearing paper and she's laying eggs. And so that was it. That was all the singing I had. Yes, ma'am.
What age do they become sexually mature?
A year. Yeah. So if you hatch canaries out early this spring, the following spring, that hen and male will be ready to
How long
reproduce.
do they live?
In captivity up to 10 years. Yeah. Yeah. That's a well-kept bird. So also in the breeding season, you can vent sex. Your hen's vent area will start to swell, get ready for eggs, and your males will stay about the same, tubular, round, tight. I will also share, looking at this slide, some of your breeders who breed the bigger birds that are really soft feather will cut feathers from around the vent. That's to make sure that that when they breed, everything connects properly. But doing that takes a little bit of practice. Because there's some feathers around the vent you don't want to cut because it's a guide, kind of a guide system. But for the birds that, if you're going to purchase here, your hearts, your pipes, you don't need to do that. They'll do it, they'll make it. Maybe not all the eggs will be fertile, 4 out of 5, or 3 out of 4, or all 3. They're doing good. Yeah. So this is an example of this, is an ideal setup. So because canaries are so territorial, your male may come in position before your female will. And if I put them in this cage together, they'll fight. But she's not ready, she'll have nothing to do with it. And so that's why that divider's in there. And what you can do is you put your male in one side, he's starting to sing. You divide it up, and you put the hen that you want to breed with that male in here. And so she's safe, they're both safe, and he's going to go bonkers and just sing for her. When she comes in condition, and some signs of that are uncoiling paper, you put some nesting material, and I'll show this in a few minutes, in there, and she's starting to carry stuff around, and she's twirling with it. Even if you put your nest basket in, and she starts building a nest, that's a good sign she's ready. The best sign that it's okay to put them together if he's feeding her through this little wire panel. So he's going to feed her. And that's your best sign that they're okay. So when you take the divider out, you just leave the room? No, you sit and watch and you keep an eye on them for a few minutes and make sure that everything's going to go okay. So that is the best ideal setup. So what I've done, because I have these really nice cages, I got the 32-inch. So what I do is this little sliding door here, I'll take one of them off and put the next one real close to it. And so it's only one layer, and then I put my 2 birds together. And then when they're ready, I just open that door, and if when she flies into his, that would be the breeding cage. So it can easily be done that way as well.
So you have a setup of the double?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I only have 3 breeding pair right now, but I've had more, I've had less. And sometimes because they bond so well, and when I put them in the flight cages, I put my males and females all back together again. They have plenty of room. Yes, there are some squabbles, but nothing like they are in breeding time. I've never had a really aggressive, mean male, which is good, because if you do, he's in a cage by himself. It's just how it's going to be. And that allows the birds to stay together. It's easier on the keeper, one big long flight cage to clean, just fewer waterers. And I also like to put the same pair back together when it's time to breed. Because I have so few, I don't line breed, which sounds weird. So when a clutches hatches out, and you put that male, their father, with one of the daughters, or a son with one of the mothers, called line breeding. And a lot of your show canaries do that. I'm not into showing canaries, so I don't mess with that. But I'll put the same pair together. When I was being taught about canaries from the lady in Chapel Hill, she talked about her canaries actually being in love with each other. And when she separated, they just call for each other. Even when they're in side-by-side cages, they would just fly they would just fly from one corner to the other corner trying to find them. So I put them back together and everything just so Canaries have personalities, and they'll have. So best practice is you separate your males and females during off-breeding season. Some of my sure. Oh, okay. So some of my birds, some of the master breeders I know who have bird rooms have sort of these cages set up, but they're in kind of boxes, and they can pull all their slides out and create almost like a 12 to 18 foot slide cage, and they can house 4 or 5 males because there's lots of room in there. And when they're not in the breeding season, males they squabble, but it's not like when it's time to breed. Does that make sense to you? So this is the ideal startup situation. I like these. I also found some of these online because when you hang them up, of course you're hanging these up here like that, and this will hang like that. And I found that when the baby canaries poop, you always get poop here. This will just fall all around on the bottom. This cleanup's a little easier. It's sturdier, and I like this because when I go in to take the nest out to check on chicks or eggs, it's just easier for me because, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm so heavy-handed and trying to get this back on there is a little difficult. But that's 2. And within those, you'll need some of these non-little pads. When I ordered these, they came with a little insert. I had to tape it down because the end would play with it and pull, and next thing you know, it's turned up to the side, bottom of the cage, and you may have to kind of like tape these down inside. Because what will happen is all that wonderful nesting material will slip, and I've had a couple of hens I've had to kind of take the cage, take the nest out, and push the stuff back so the cup will go back down to the bottom. So that's important. Talking about nesting, what I found my canaries like is the sisal. They love to build the nest with it and then line it with, and Tracy carries this too, it's like a cotton thing. And I've gone to the wild bird shop and got some things so they can have an assortment of stuff to what they like to line their feathers with, line their nest with. Will we get it fixed?
I got it.
Okay.
It was on his hand. Sorry.
So here's a question. Do you notice anything different about the eggs? Yes, exactly. So the canary's last egg is a brighter blue than her first several. So most of the time, she's done doubling almost daily. And so that first chick, and you got 3 eggs, or the third day, that little chick is so tiny to get its head, it won't be out. Yeah. And so I have, because I didn't get to the clutching time, and I lost the last egg, is the egg you want to lose sometimes.
If you take the eggs out, and you could just put them in seed, do they have to stay warm or anything, or just
Room temperature is fine. Yep.
once you start brooding them, that's when they start developing. They don't really start developing.
Correct. So if you think about your wild birds, even your ducks, who lay a clutch of like 20 eggs or 12 eggs, that hen's not incubating until she's done and she starts. And the first egg hatches at the same time the last egg is hatched. That's absolutely amazing. I got this picture too for a couple of reasons. That's absolutely adorable. But so when you candle your eggs, when you raise parrots, you check your eggs, right, for fertilization. Yes, no, sometimes. I check about after a week. I have an egg candler. I'll take the nest out, the dark room. I do this at night, right at the evening most of the time, and I'll candle the eggs. So if I have a clutch of 4 eggs and 1 egg is not fertile, I'll leave it. Because as the chicks hatch out, see how he's resting on that egg? It helps get through, because what's going to happen, their little heads are so big, their necks are weak, it's going to go right straight down. It's a lot of energy to go all the way up and get that head up. So, good advice that's been passed along with me is just leave that unfertile egg in there. When all the chicks are hatched out, they got a day or 2, then you go in and take it out. So that way they're getting their heads up. It's kind of like I got a pillow in the nest to help hold my head up. Does that make sense too? The canaries who lay lots of eggs, like 6, they start laying 6. 4 is a good rule. 4 eggs for any bird. If they're first year, or second, or third year. 5, 6 eggs is a lot of babies for a pair of canaries to raise. It's been done. Or you can foster them out. Every now and then I have a hen that's after about 3rd, 4th, 5th year of age, the hens, that's it. They're not going to get a very reliable hen as far as breeding and hatching out, but she's an excellent mom, and she'll build a nest and she'll lay this weird size egg, but it's not going to be fertile. Use it for a foster. Throw some other your canary eggs underneath her and let her raise 1 or 2 chicks.
You actually put the eggs in the nest, not the babies after they hatch.
Correct. Let her hatch the eggs, yes. So housing. I think housing has changed since our Victorian forefathers have started keeping canaries to what we're doing now. We've moved about the bird being, the pleasure of keeping a bird has moved from my bird to be happy and comfortable. So this is a bad example, no matter how cute it is, a bad example of what a canary cage will look like. All of these are great examples. Oh wait. Every once in a while I do. So with any bird, a finch or canary that you're wary of letting it out of its cage, of course the more room it has to fly, the happier this bird is going to be. Canaries need length more than height, and they need to exercise their muscles, especially the hens, because when it starts the breeding, and they've been in a nice long flight cage, and you put them in this, they're flying kind of this cut in half. So she's going to need good muscles to help lay those eggs. The top left one, that cage is great. The only downfall about that, setting that cage up, is the perches are wrong. And it's nothing that I don't think Tracy or Varieties does. It's how they come. You take those long perches out, and then you'll get some things, you'll get like this. And I recommend these because, and these, and this is okay, but we're going to change the location, direction, because the canary gives it different sizes things to clutch to. You know, if we run with the same hen all day long with our hands, like, ooh, give me something big or something tiny. So in this cage here, if this was going to be my cage, I was going to house my male canary. I would get rid of these cups, you won't need them. because they'll waste food. The canaries are messy. If you're a neat freak, a little like me, you want to, you'll find other alternatives. And Tracy carries some really nice stuff to help keep seeds and things together. What you want to do to give a canary its maximum flying room is, and I got this backwards because I got to get into it, is you want the bird to be able to fly from one side of the cage to the other side of the cage. And so to maximize that is giving perches that are far apart. I mean, ta-da. And occasionally, you put one down here. Something like that. But I would recommend using different size. So go with something like this. Even your wood dowels that will go all the way across, that's okay too. So something that went all the way across is good. But you want flying room this way. And when it comes to seed and water and cuddle bone and all those things, I'd recommend this for a canary. Canaries love to bathe. And when you put your water in a dish like this, it's going to take a bath every time, and then it's drinking bath water. So this for drinking, and then once or twice a week during the non-breeding season, offer it a bath. Now my birds love to get in, you can get the Cool Whip containers, fill it half full, they'll get in, and then water will go everywhere. You'll have an indoor fountain. This is a good size. It's okay. I would recommend something bigger. I've even put these in there, filled it with water, and they get down in there, and they love it. And then they'll go to their perch and preen and do all kinds of wonderful things. Cold water. Don't use warm water. Don't think it's going to. Oh, they're going to get cold. No. They're not as fragile as you think they are. So give them some. Just run the cold tap. You don't need ice water. Run the cold tap, put it in there, and let them do their thing. They'll love it. I like to set up stations for like your minnow. You'll need your grit and your cuddle bone. I like to set it up where all that's like together. I don't know why I did that. It's just how I did it. And I also find the little cups that you put in, like this, when the bird comes down, even if there's a perch in front of it, or if it lands here, that bird's going to turn around, and then it's going to poop. It poops in everything. And so you're changing. I've tried the grit and some of these waters and some of these little feeders, and that's working out pretty good. But sometimes once they get what they want, the good stuff is up here, and they're not able to get to it. So I've experimented. I've gotten the little terracotta things you put under flower pots, and I've sprinkled their seed, put some treats and put some stuff in that. But again, that's maximum a day and a half too, because again, the poop. They're going to land in it, walk around in it. But they are ground feeders, and so it is what it is. They're not going to eat their food. But I like setting out little stations where they go get the perch and their cuddle bone, all their little, and things like this. This is a calcium trace mineral. That is there. I give mine prime, and I offer this. And I read and follow directions. It's all there. So I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. So let me talk about this kind of stuff. Food, anything that's fortified. Tracy carries everything you need to keep the canary fed. All right. I will share, I'm not very crazy about the Zoom cream, the pellet stuff. Canaries are a seed eater. Finches are seed eaters. And as a treat, go for it. But as their main source of intake, I would stay with seeds. I would really recommend it. Unless your bird that you purchase is totally on Zoom cream, then you keep it on Zoom cream. But if you get a eating seeds, stay with seeds. Okay? So with that, year-round, I give mine prime, follow directions, and everything, almost everything they need is in this to maintain health. Even it's not as water soluble. It's you sprinkle on top maybe your kale or top of your seed or top of the egg fruit tree. Sprinkle on top of that. It'll kind of just, they'll eat it. Wonderful. And
There's a lot of stuff in it that makes it water.
I keep this whenever they want it. This is the mineral grit, so I keep this whenever they want to go to it and get some that's available to them all the time. This you can do two ways. This is the essential calcium. I add this during breeding season because the hens need more calcium to help form their eggs. Okay, so I put a little bit more extra than just the cuttle bone because this is a calcium source, and then they get this. And I'll just put it in a cup and they can access it like they want because she knows how much calcium she needs in her body. This is an egg food. There's two ways you can do this. You can give it to them dry, or you can moist it down, or you can add a mashed boiled egg to it and mix it all up. Add some of your prime to it, and that's what they can feed their chicks. So let me talk about that for a few minutes. So by profession, I'm a school teacher, and so I have spring break. Fortunately, this year, I had lots of babies hatching out during that week, and I was able to do my egg food. I would put a little bit, just enough what they would eat, and feed the chicks for maybe a maximum an hour. Because I'm scared of spoilage. You don't want bad food in there feeding your chicks. So if now that, coming to the end of the school year and going back to work, I would put this dry right into a cup. And they would access it. It won't go bad. They can have it all day long.
And what is that? What kind of?
This is an egg food, and there's several different kinds. Tracy carries. So another thing, there's so much, guys. Another thing too about this kind of stuff, you don't want to start feeding the canary when they have chicks. So, let me see if my canary will eat this. You start this a little bit as a treat to see if they even eat it. And then it's like, oh yeah, they're eating it. Okay, good. And so it's a treat about once a week. And even while she's sitting on eggs, it's still considered as a treat. Keep their food coming to them regularly. Kale is the best green thing you can feed them. And I'll stop there because you can lettuce. Too much lettuce gives them runny. You'll have watery, because there's lots of water in lettuce. And if you feed your chicks that, their food's just running through them. So kale, you can feed kale to your birds every day. The canary can eat kale every day. Yes. Dandelions also, blooms and leaves are good. Yes. Wash them. Come out of your yard. Wash them real good. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought. I'll come back to a minute.
You do that year round?
You can, as a treat. Yeah. So that's where I'll go. So when the chicks hatch, they have access to this 24/7. Even after the chicks are starting to fledge, that's something you want them to have access to. Another thing you can do too is soak seed. That's something else you can try. I did it when I was home on spring break, so I could take it out and change it like I wanted to. But that's something too you have to manage kind of carefully. And they really, really like soak seed. They'll really get that up.
Are you going to be talking about molting?
I can, yes. So this is something what I've done. This isn't a picture of my house. This is a picture I found like, oh, somebody's thinking the same way I am. So I took two hand-me-down cages, took this part out, and made me a white cage. So use your cages that way as well. So molting. Okay, good. I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the things I wanted to find out what you guys wanted to know. Yes, they molt. Most times right after breeding season, they'll go through a molt. Sometimes I will add in the liquid iodine that Tracy carries here. Just put it right in their water. Yeah, and that will help feather development and growth. Extra protein is not necessarily needed. Treats, the song food, and all those kinds of things, they're really nice. Once or twice a week kind of thing. All right. They don't. Canaries have simple wants and needs. They don't need a lot of extra things. What they really like is their seed. I can't recommend this enough. This author talks about a study that was done on kept birds, parrots, and canaries, and the biggest deficiency was their vitamin D, because we have our birds inside. And so that study said, our birds, make sure you have a good source of vitamin D. Toys. Occasionally, I'll put something like this in for my fledglings. Canaries don't need toys. If I had a canary, what he would need in this, I would probably add a swing, and that's it. No mirrors, no reflective stuff. That's stressful because they think it's another male canary. I'm going to fight you because you're in my territory. Okay? And that's how that goes. A couple other things too, with hens building nests, there's a couple of things I've used. This goes on the outside of the cage. You can put stuff in there, or you can get this little wheel and it just pops open. You put your stuff in, you close it, and then you attach it to the side or to the top or down to the bottom. A couple of things. With this, I found I like attaching it to the top, but making sure my perch is high enough. If I did this to the side, I found that my canaries would started roosting on it. And when you roost on it, what do? You get food. And so that means you're taking it out. Or you can put it down low like this, and that'll work too. If it's too low, I'd rather be up high. Canaries, most birds high, I'm safe. And so it kind of deters from the person. If you get a canary and you think it's a male and it's, oh, I have a hen, she's going to lay. You can't stop it. And what triggers laying is the length of the day, kind of like our songbirds here. This author, and in my experience, is you let her build a nest and let her lay and let her set under those unfertile eggs. Because if not, you take them, she's just going to keep laying, and that's going to deplete her resources. Because she is, it takes a lot of energy, more energy to create and lay an egg than it does feeding chicks. That's where all her canary hen does. And the other thing you can do is to keep her so that when bad eggs, as they dry up, will lighten up, and the hen notices that, she'll come off the nest, and then she's laying again soon. You can put a few dummy eggs, because it takes about 14 days for a canary egg to hatch. And after about 14 days, just take the whole thing out. Some things that I've been said to help take them out of the nesting is from master breeders or feed them cucumber. We'll put them into a, oh, I don't want to lay anymore, I'm done kind of thing. Other folks, what they've done is put them in their flight cages, and if they're still in laying, they'll lay in their seed cup, they'll lay here and there, but they'll soon very quickly stop. And the other thing is to help promote a molt, is to pull a feather or two from the tail. That's as a last resort kind of thing. You pull a tail feather or two, and it helps trigger the molt. Okay, I've talked a lot of okay. So what questions might you have? What did I did not talk about that you were just like, oh, I can't believe you didn't talk about?
How long will the molt last?
Looking at maybe 4 weeks at the most. Some canaries molt, you'll have feathers almost all the time maybe. It's not I drop everything, I look like the baked chicken. It's not that. It's your tail feathers and your wing feathers will give you the best indication. When they're all in, most times they're done. And when
Babies, and they know it's normal.
yeah, it's kind of a gradual thing. And you'll notice their first molting will start on their wing shoulders. It'll look like they've been plucked, but it's not. They'll start molting here first, growing in new feathers. Yeah.
We noticed during the molt, we have one male canary. He's not finished.
Yes.
And I think he's either finished or very close to being finished. And he hasn't been seen, or he hasn't come back yet.
Well, that's one of those what ifs. My canary didn't stop singing. Give it time. The only thing I can think of, because this is maximum. This is at the maximum height soon of wanting to come to season. The length of the day is what creates that need to sing and breathe. So if he has access to sunlight, you have open windows where he's kept, that'll help. They're very sensitive to light.
Does it help with canaries, or does the parrots to give them a decreased life cycle?
Yes. So
What is
that's a great
the optimum
question.
of breeding? What's the optimum to get them out of breeding? And because the parrots, it's like 12 and a half to 13 hours of bright light versus to get them out of that, take it down below 12 hours, or at least a maximum of 12 hours of darkness.
Correct.
It's about the same.
It's about the same. And so what I'll do now, my birds, I let my birds finish up. I have hens on their, I let hens do only 2 clutches a year. Even with just one chick hatch, 1 clutch, that's it. No, there's no more. And so I decrease the light, and what I'll do, I'll start decreasing it and matching. The lights will come on about an hour, sometimes 30 minutes to an hour after the sun's come up, and they'll go off probably about an hour or 30 minutes before the sun goes down. So that way it gives them kind of a natural kind of decline of the day. If you're in a room where, or you'll keep birds and you're really going to do lots of breeding, I would recommend researching and finding out, because some of my colleagues will keep dimming lights, because this white light will go off, but this dim light will still be on. And then after so many times, that light will go off, and the night light is still on. And so in my bird, down where I keep my birds, I keep the night light on 24/7 during the breeding season, because when the lights go off, if the hen's off the nest, chilled eggs, chilled chicks, you're done. You're going to lose them. But there's just enough light that they can get back on the nest, and if something happens in the night, there's enough light that they can tell between night and day, but there's enough light for them to be able to see. However, if you're keeping just 1 or 2 canaries up in your study or something like that, you have access to indirect bright light, I would let the birds do it naturally. Your season will be different, because I started mine early February. And we do that because that's what I was trained to do. The other thing was, by the time it's time to show birds, your young chicks are ready to show in October. Yes, ma'am.
What did you say you should feed during molting season?
I put liquid iodine in their water.
Liquid iodine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So if you have some canaries or even finches with bald spots, and it's like, ooh, they molt, and they just didn't come back right or something, and they're still bald, put some liquid iodine. You can also add some sea kelp to their seed as a tree. I'm gonna grab her, then I'll grab you, okay?
Our windows today are coated to keep out the UV light, so you can't really rely on that unless we're going to open the window and have it really through.
That's a good point. There's lights you can put like over your aquariums, and then that will mimic the UV light as well. I'm gonna grab her and then come to you, Joyce.
Yeah, can you put liquid iodine? I've got a little rumiated parakeet. He's got like a little bald spot on the top of his head, and it doesn't seem to be getting it. Would that hurt her? Him or her, I don't know which.
I'll answer that with, if it's a bird supply that's sold for birds, I think it would do the same thing. Read and follow those directions. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say with the UV lights that they sell, they are effectively giving good UVs for only about 3 to 6 months.
Correct.
So they are very expensive bulbs, but don't plan on leaving them until the bulb itself burns out, because after the first 3 months or so, they're not really giving off UV properly. So you have to think in terms of changing them before if you're using them for a sole source of light, and they have to be very close to be effective. If you've got good vitamin D in your food source, which your prime is, they are able to produce their own calcium from the food and the prime. and the UV lights are not as necessary. But as long as you're feeding a proper supplement, you don't have to have the UV lights.
Thanks.
Yeah, just a little extra. UV light can be dangerous for your birds too. Too much of it, too close, too low.
That's good to know. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I know one of those mentioned that the birds aren't that fragile, but, and I don't know anything about the small birds at all, but I read somewhere that the canaries, and like you were mentioning, if you can teach them to fly around the room and that sort of thing, but I read something somewhere that said if you tried to catch them, that they could actually be scared to death. Is that true?
Well, you know, little teeny brain, little teeny heart, panic sets in. You know, yes, that is possible and it can happen. To train, again, we have access to a great resource, YouTube. Training a canary to fly out your cage on a whistle or a bell or a command of some sort is real easy. You do it with a rigid tree. And another thing is when you're getting ready to set your room up for your birds to fly around, close windows or create something that it's not going to fly into. Put places out for it to land. Put things out it's familiar with. Sometimes these little tree perches here, I know they're for parrots, but you can mimic those in your house with a tree safe branch or a perch that's familiar with. Sometimes I put a dish with this tree here for it to fly to, and you can start with just opening the cage, putting this, attaching maybe something like this, and putting this tree out here, and it's coming out. That's step one for getting your bird out of the cage. But you don't want to handle it. There are some people who do hand raise their canaries, and they'll sit on their finger and come to you. That's another talk too. But like canaries aren't your handleless birds, and they're not the lovey-dovey, well, I need attention from you all the time kind of birds. But they like the attention. It's a really nice balance when one has to work so much and then you love a teaching bird and you come home and there it is singing. So it's a nice balance between that.
Let's just say, flighted birds is best kept in a contained room rather than a whole house.
Yes.
Because when they're in that contained room, they get the exercise, but they've always got their cage, their home. The fresh water is kept in the cage, so back to that because that's a safe environment. They know where to get what their resources are. They're not going to they might at first because they're a little frightened and find someplace high to sit, but that's not going to stay very long as they don't have three flights of multiple rooms where they're going to get lost.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
I was going to ask you about the liquid iodine. It's a product you would get here, right?
Correct,
Not in the medical supply.
Correct. Yeah, she has it on her shelf right over there. And follow directions on stuff. You may think it's like, oh, that's not very much, but think about how tiny that bird is. Circulatory, respiratory systems, and all those things are small. Yep. Any other questions? Great. Thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Years ago, there used to be a radio program called Hearts Mountain Canary.
Yes. That's your hearts.
I used to listen to